Hello, Michael here with some more arts and crafts, casual mini painting with Michael. Still working on my setup. This probably won't be what we end up with when we eventually get there, but it's working. So that's what we're gonna keep doing today. So the plan today is I'm gonna try to finish up Red Skull. Um, doesn't help when I cover the camera. Uh, Basically, about the only thing I want to do left with him is to go over the pockets because I want to make them a slightly different green color than the jacket. I'm going to do a little bit on the base. I'm not going to worry too much about it, but I'm going to get some paint on some of the slabs, sort of a grayish color to make them look sort of like concrete or asphalt. And then I'm actually going to start on both Black Widow and Venom just because they both have a lot of black on them. And I figured that'd be a way to kind of get a lot done in a small amount of time. So I'll be able to put maybe like a first coat on both of these. And then if Red Skull is dry, then I will probably add a wash to him and call him done. So let's get started. So as I mentioned before, again, I'm still trying to figure out the best way to make it so that the mini is kind of visible when I'm doing what I'm doing to it. This is what I'm doing for now, but I'm always open to suggestions from people who maybe know a little bit more about it than I do. And it's also very important for me to mention that I don't know what I'm doing. I don't want anyone to watch this stream and to think, hey, I'm going to learn how to paint, because you're not. You might learn what not to do in certain situations. But if there's anything that I bring to the table, it is that it's cool just to get started. Doesn't matter if you really know what you're doing yet. The fun is learning and just having the minis, because I've said this before, but I think the Red Skull looks great right now, as is. I would love to be able to put this on the table and play this game with my kids, which is really all I'm worried about. So it doesn't matter if they're quote unquote professional, just as long as you're happy with them. That's all that matters. All right, so let's get some water here. And then I got to get on my sweet looking headband glasses because I am blind and I can't really see very well, especially not this close up. And I think I'm going to start with this goblin skin. Nope, green skin. Again, I use the Army Painter paints just because I went online and bought a big like starter kit, and that's where almost all my painting stuff comes from. And I'm going to see how that looks for these pockets on the jacket. Whoa, that is way too much green for what I'm going to be using. Oh well, nothing I can do about it now. All right, so we're going to get a pretty fine tip brush. And we're just going to add a little bit of color to just the pockets here on his army jacket. I just want them to look just a slight bit off from the rest of the jacket. Now that color contrast I have here between the sort of army green of his jacket and this lighter green is pretty high, but I think it's fine. Works for me. I don't know if this would work in like a real world situation, but in our version of the world, it's perfect. I was hoping not to have to cover up those shiny buttons I had painted last time, but unfortunately, it just sort of happened. So we're just going to roll with it. Well, that green definitely has set those pockets off. They definitely do not look like the rest of the jacket now. So since that is what I was going for, I guess we will count that as a success. Okay. So just kind of giving him a once over, and there's obviously some mistakes in here and some places that could definitely be better. But again, for our purposes, I'm pretty happy with that. So I need to let this dry, and then I'll go back over and redo the buttons since I covered them up with my green. So we'll give a brush a little wash. All right. And then we're going to put a little bit of gray paint again on the base there, just where his feet are stepping, kind of make that look like, concrete or something like that. And then I think he's going to be good to go. Almost, man. Again, I want to go back over and do those. Where'd my thumbtack go? Another lesson you can learn from me by not doing the right things is keep a tidy workstation, because I had a little thumbtack here that I used to unclog these when they get clogged, but now I can't find it. It's probably in the floor somewhere, which is also not good, but because I had a bit of an explosion of the day, I just kept squeezing really hard, and when all this right here is from where it came out very forcefully. Might be having a repeat of that same situation. Really wish I knew where that was. Yep, that's exactly what happened again. Wow, that was even worse than the first time. It's all over me and all over my face. So as Bob Ross would definitely say, that was a happy little accident, wasn't it? Ugh. Oh gosh, that went like literally everywhere. Ugh. All over my face too. This is great. Well, that's probably the most entertaining thing that has ever happened on my channel. So, wow. I'm not as worried about me. I'm just hoping that it didn't go. I don't see damage any big places other than me, so I think we're okay. All right, so rule for next time, definitely look for that thumbtack and don't just keep squeezing. And I was worried about how much green I had used. That was definitely, wow. Okay. Oh, well, that was fun. Okay. Yeah, all right. Well, we definitely got plenty of paint now for what I'm going to do at least. So essentially the base here, and the bases are just one of the things that I am not good at all. So hopefully over time I will get better. But for now, I'm just going to put enough on here to kind of differentiate some of these things, that these larger slabs. Okay. So again, for my purposes, that works. Um, just because I have all of this gray out, thanks to my little mishap, I'm going to go ahead and start with the gray on these other two that I'm going to start today rather than with the black. Because basically I've wasted like half a pot of this gray paint. I have a couple more of that same color, so I'm not, you know, it's not a huge concern that I end up wasting so much. So it does suck. I don't, I don't want to waste paint. Oh yeah, sorry. Keep forgetting this stuff. The whole, the camera's supposed to be able to see too. There we go. Okay. And then we'll do Venom. So again, I'm just trying to get some gray paint so I don't waste all of it on these bases. Bases are one of my biggest weaknesses. One, because I don't like doing them, and two, I don't really know how to make them look good. Those are probably combined, I would imagine, or related, I guess I should say. Okay. All right. So we're going to switch to black here. We're going to go back over Red Skull, one more coat of black, and then we're going to get a kind of a first coat on both Black Widow and Venom, because they're a whole lot of black, if not primarily black, especially Venom. When I first started painting minis, which wasn't that long ago, of course, and even though I've been doing it for probably over a year, there are very, very large gaps of time when I wasn't painting, thanks to the move and some other stuff. So I've probably painted maybe 3 dozen minis at this point, maybe 4, but I actually kind of doubt it. But I went online and I found some videos, some tutorials on kind of how to get started. And the things that I was most focused on, again, isn't trying to make them beautiful or professional, but just make them something that's a little bit more fun to play with, just a little more oomph when you put them on the table, that you can, from game playing distance, they look good. And I really like that, obviously. So one of the things that they talked about doing was batch painting, where you would do, find several minis that all need the same color and then do that color on several of them. So it's a kind of a way to get through them fairly quickly. And in some of the other minis that I've painted, I started with that Conan game. The Conan mini game, I think, is by the same people who did the Batman Gotham City Chronicles game, which I also got. And there's a lot of like groups of enemies. So they're like minions or mooks. So you get 3 or 4 of the same basic mini, and so it works very well for that batch painting because you are literally painting the same mini, several times, maybe with just very slight variations in some of the detail, or maybe like you make one blonde, one brunette, one redhead, but for the most part, it's the same, you know, same colors. And that's sort of what I'm trying to do here. I found a couple minis that I wanted to paint that I knew would take a lot of black, and black is still one color I needed to go back over Red Skull. So it made sense to me to try to batch those together. So we'll start with Red Skull here. I'm kind of messed up his boot a little bit when I was painting that gray, so I'm just going to go over that one time. Yeah, that's really all I wanted to do there. Whoops. And now for Black Widow, so I'll start with Venom. Venom's going to get a whole lot of black. I mean, he's basically black except for the white on the small parts of his uniform, his teeth, and his eyes and his tongue. Everything else is pretty much black. So I'm not going to be delicate. I'm just going to try to get a nice, even coat of black everywhere. Hmm. So again, I'm not really trying to be delicate. I know I'm going to have to go back over uh, the areas that will not be black, but at my skill level, trying to leave them untouched would take so long, and I probably wouldn't do it very well anyways. So rather than leaning into that, I'm just going to lean into, I know I'm going to have to go over it. So let's just try to get this black on first. The one thing I will try to avoid will be the tongue, just because I know the tongue is going to be red, and at least the parts that are, really far sticking out, I don't really need to, try to cover to get the rest of him. So while I'm not really trying to avoid most of the non-black stuff, I will try to avoid the tongue, at least the part that's really sticking out. Okay, we just have this one leg and this sort of, I guess, tentacles, how I would say it. Maybe it's a like symbiote pseudopod looking thing to go. And as I said with the Red Skull very early on, I think this is already, playable. Certainly will look better once I get the white on there and, the tongue gets a bright red. But as far as playing with my kids, I think this is already acceptable. Okay. I'm happy with that. Alrighty. And so we'll get started on the Black Widow. At least get a first coat on her. May not be quite as happy-go-lucky with her, though I probably will be, just because, again, that's not the level of painting I'm doing. But I know her uniform is pretty much going to be black, and there'll be some what's the word I'm looking for here? I don't know, like flourishes or whatever that contrast that will work. Like the belt will probably be a slightly different color, maybe all these pouches, pockets, that kind of stuff. But for the most part, she's gonna be wearing a black uniform. And I've got all this black out, and since I'm not using a wet palette, whatever I don't use will go to waste. So I might as well get a pretty decent coating of black on there. I'm just going to assume she's wearing gloves, or at least in my version she will be, because trying to paint her hands would be atrocious for me. But I'll definitely make the gauntlet she's wearing a slightly different color with another coat, and then the weapon she's holding will be a something different color. And she'll have red hair, but I don't want it to be like blood red. So like I don't want it to be the same red as like Venom's tongue is going to be, or Red Skull's head. But I don't know that I have a good red, so I may have to figure out how to mix up something. But yeah, I'm already liking that as well. All right, let's check out Red Skull one more time. Just again, because I got all this black I need to use before it goes bad. Okay. No, I think that's good. If I was a more skilled painter, I would probably try to paint maybe his teeth and his eyes a different color, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to leave them the red they are. But I am going to wait till next time to put the wash on them. Just want to let that dry a little bit more. So we still have one more time when we're going to go back and finish him up. And then hopefully next time I'll be able to get a little bit more on Venom and Black Widow. Definitely get the tongue for Venom and then the hair for Black Widow. Start working on some of those detail of the uniform that I just painted in black. But we're already making progress. And then probably we'll do something similar once these are done with like Captain America and Captain Marvel, because they both are going to have somewhat of a similar scheme. Where she is, red, white, and blue, red, blue and gold and yellow, that kind of thing. So, and one Iron Man too. There's going to be some overlap there. So I'll try to figure out a way to kind of overlap some of those colors and get some big swatches done. But for the most part, I think that's going to be it for today. Thanks for those of you who hung out for a little while. I saw a couple people jumped in and out. It's understandable. Again, I'm still trying to figure out what I'm doing, but I need to go take a shower because I literally have gray paint all over me at this point. So thanks, and I hope we'll see you next time. Bye.